Good morning, everybody. We are starting. We have two parshiot this week, Matot and Mas'ei. And a lot of important things are being passed to us through those parshiot. As we say always, it's not stories, it's the way to behave, the way to learn how the world functions. And one of the main things of a human being is the power of speech. And we see this on the beginning, that God is telling us, Vaydaber Moshe el Rashi Amatot, he talks to the head of the people, Livnei Israel, to the children of Israel, to say, that's the thing that God ordered. Ish ki yidor neder, if you do a vow, or you promise something, le'esor isar nafsho, lo yachel dvaro. You should not say something you cannot keep. If you say something, keep it. Kechol hayotze mipiv yaseh. What you promise, what you talk, you have to deliver. Unfortunately, we look around and we see a lot of people, and especially the Rashi Amatot, the heads, the politicians, all those that are top, they're in charge, the people that we are voted for them to control life, to rule, to let's lead us to the right place. And this is why one of the questions is, who is really Moshe Rabbeinu talking to? Is he talking to all Am Israel, or is he talking only to the leaders? And one of the explanations is he talks to both of them. He talks to the leaders and to Bnei Israel. But why is it divided? Because first of all, from the general idea, he specifically talks to the leaders to tell them, you know, before the election, you stand in front of God and in front of people and you promise promises, keep the promises. Don't say things that you have no intention to keep. Or don't say things or promise things that you cannot deliver. It's not in your power to do it. Because as we know, it's very easy in order to be elected to promise promises. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then after they are elected, suddenly all those promises are gone. It's like they say, I promised, but I didn't promise that I'm going to do it. I promised. And Torah tells us you should be very careful with what you say. Also, lo yachel dvaro. Lo yachel dvaro is from the language of yachel, lechulin, the way you talk. Like, don't talk dirty. Talk in a nice, clean language. You know, the other day, I went to a walk. I walk very early in the morning when I'm listening to your shiur, and I'm seeing those group of young people, I don't know, 15, 16, and girls from good homes, and I hear them speaking, and I couldn't believe it. The curses, what they said, the girls, look so nice girls from good homes, dirty language. I couldn't stand hearing it. And this is what the Torah tells us. You know what is the power of speech? As we say in the Reshit, that God created the man, and he says, Vayipach be'apo nishmat chayim, and he put inside the soul of life. Says Onkelos, Ruach memalala. What is the neshama? Ruach memalala, the spirit that talks. In other words, the way to, let's say, to show the way to act as a human being is through your mouth, through your language, through your talk. What you talk is what you are. So God gave us the neshama, and the neshama, you pronounce the neshama, you show the neshama through the way you talk and what you talk. And this is why talking is so important. They say in the book of Kuzari, when the king of Kuzar is talking to the Chaver, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, and he tells him there are 4 levels in nature. That is the domain, the still life, there is the growing life, there is the living life, and there is the talking. Yes, in Hebrew it is Domen, Someach, Chai Medaber. And he says, you know, there is another level, which is a Jew. And it's also being, let's say, you see it through the power of speech. In other words, a Jew should speak in a different level from all the others, because we are the son. We have this holy neshama that is put into us, and we have to sanctify the talk, what we talk. And to understand a little more, carpenters got tools. Every lawyer's got his own tools. And we all know that if we want somebody to represent us in court, we will not take the carpenter, and we'll take a lawyer. And if we need a cupboard, we won't take the lawyer, we will take the carpenter. And it is well known that the carpenter's got his own tools. And without those tools, he cannot manufacture anything. The same way is with the lawyer. He's got his own tools. If it's the pen, if it's the knowledge, and if he hasn't got those tools, he also cannot do anything. But if I give the tools from the carpenter to the lawyer and the tools of the lawyer to the carpenter, I also did nothing. But they are tools. Maybe he can use them, but not in the proper way. He can do only damages. The tool of a Jew is the power of speech. And so we have to sanctify the power of speech and be aware of what we talk, the way we talk, and what we promise. Don't promise what you cannot deliver, or don't promise if you haven't got any intention to deliver. And anyway, you have to be careful in what you talk. You remember always I tell you about the Matzeva, the tombstone that we have in Petach Tikva in Skula. I can show it to you again. I took a picture of it. Here, you know what happened. I told you and tell it again. This guy, a young guy, and by joke he said, when they planned to do the cemetery in Petach Tikva in the beginning, so by a joke he said, I don't mind to be the first one, the first deceased one that is going to be buried here in this new, how do you say?
Section.
In the
new section.
Yeah, it's not a new section, it's a whole new graveyard. And at the same week, he died, and he was the first one to be buried there. And those things are written on the tombstone that I saw you. That's exactly what's written. And I can read it to you. Ish Galmud, a lowly man that did an aliyah, came to Israel, together with the people of his city that settled themselves in our settlement. And he said, the 10 days before he died, when he was healthy and whole, he said that he wouldn't mind to be the first one in this graveyard. And he died in Yom, I don't know what's written in, Tet B'Tishrei Tarmat. Tet B'Tishrei, it's one day before Yom Kippur. A real story, a true story, that you can see it if you come to Skula graveyard in Petach Tikva. When you go in on the right-hand side, you look through the stones and you find this stone standing there. This is what the meaning of speaking. Speak nicely, speak on good things, use the power of speech in order to do good and not to do bad. I remember a few years ago, we went with my wife is a teacher. She's retired now. And a few years ago, we went with Histadrut HaMorim, the teacher organization. We went for a few days to Tiberia. And in one of the days, we had a tour with a guide. And suddenly, we found ourselves walking in the footsteps of Christianity. Couldn't believe it. The guy, the only thing he was talking about was Jesus. And he was talking in such a great confidence about things. And everybody was listening. He talked nicely. And it's important to say that a lot of the people were wearing kippah. They were religious. And they all still listen to this knowledgeable guy, like he was talking Torah from Sinai. And when I heard the things he was talking about, I couldn't understand it. And I saw that a few of the people even agreed with what he said. And I told him, I'm sorry, you're not talking exactly no, and this and that. I couldn't, till today, when I remember it, I'm frustrated. I don't understand. How can it be that in Eretz Israel, the Jewish country, the teacher organization organizes a guide that talks about Jesus to religious teachers? I understand if it's got those Christians that's coming to a visit so he can talk with them. But to talk with us, with Jews, about Jesus, and putting him like he put him as a figure that you can look to. Like it's like we have today, you have business Hasidim, you have Misnagdim, and you have Satmar, and you have also Christians. Unbelievable. You know, Einstein said there are two things that infinity. The universe and the human stupidity. And he says, I'm not quite sure about the universe. And how true it is. When we talk about the voice, Akol Kol Yaakov Hayadayim Yedei Esav. This is the power of Bnei Israel, the power of speech. So use it carefully. Use it in a proper way. Talk nicely. Don't curse. Use the power of speech in order to elevate yourself and elevate others. Which reminds me a story that happened to me in the middle of the corona when it was quite severe and shops were closed and we were only delivering things. And one day comes this lady to the warehouse and she's wearing a mask and she's walking, she's standing in a distance, doesn't want to come near, and she wants to take something she ordered through one of the companies we work with. And we said that we need the code from the thing. And I cut the long story, the long story short, she didn't let us touch the phone in order to see the code. She couldn't wait, and she was so on spilchas, how we say, that I saw it. I just put the stuff, the chairs in the car. And then she wouldn't want to wait. She says, I'm going to go without signing the papers. I'm not going to go close to near. Says, if you're so worried about it, why did you come to take the stuff? You could have a delivery and that's it. No, and this and that. And I see that she has got an intention to go out. So I go and stand behind the car. This is after I took out the chairs because I thought she has got no intention to sign. And if she doesn't sign, we don't get the money. And then she took the chairs and put them back and she was starting to drive. And I'm standing on the back of it. And eventually we slip into the window, the invoice, and she signed it. And on she signed, it said, stupid people. My son, afterwards, she said she's a journalist, she's going to talk, she'll write about us. So he tried to, he wants customer to be satisfied. So he was talking with her. So she sent us on a WhatsApp. And among the things she sent, she says, and those two stupid old people, referring to me and my wife that were in the warehouse at that time. I couldn't believe this is a way to talk. And by the way, she was older than me, but that's not the case. How dare you talk like this? Then I was talking with a friend that is a driver, and he said, you know what? That is nothing. This week, this young guy wants to go up on the bus, and I'm telling him, put the mask on. And he's telling me, shut up, you old, I don't want to say don't say anymore. Is this a way to act? And you know, when I looked at the film that everything was recorded on cameras in the business, and I was angry that I got angry. Really. It wasn't worth it. And this is the fight we have. This is lo yachel dvaro. This is keeping the power of speech. And this takes us to the next stage when we have in the next parsha, Elu Mas'ei Bnei Israel. This is the journey of the children of Israel. And there are 42 journeys. And the Shloach Kadosh says, those are the journeys that each one of us has in this world. All the stages that we go through in life in order to achieve our goal. And there is something very interesting when we're talking about it, because the Pasuk says something like this. The Katav Moshe, and Moses wrote at Motzaem Lemasaem. Motzaem Lemasaem, it's where we came out to the journey, Al Pi Hashem. The Ele, and those are the journeys from where we came out, Lemotzaem. And this is ridiculous. Why is the Torah saying the same thing twice? And there is a small change. In the beginning, it's first of all where you came out, and then the journey. And the second time is it's the journey, and then where you came out. And what does it mean? What is my journey is going back to where I came from? What is this all about? And there are a lot of explanations, but one of the beautiful explanations is that when the neshama comes down to this world, so it's going out from up there in heaven and comes down here to a journey. And the journey has to be done al pi Hashem, on the order of God, on the way of God. And if we do this journey right, as those are the journeys that are going to bring us back to heaven after we fixed what we have to fix. It's a beautiful explanation of what we do in this world. The neshama came down and was connected to the body. And she's going to the journeys that are 42 journeys. And if we do the journeys al pi Hashem, as God ordered us to do them, then the journey will bring us safely to fix the ways and do our task and do our job in this world and go up to heaven where the neshama came from. In order to do this, we have to say one more thing. The neshama is divided to 5 levels: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, v'yechida. Chaya v'yechida, I'm not even going to explain. It's something very high. But what we all know is the nefesh, ruach, neshama. In English, there is no, I didn't find a special word for nefesh. But nefesh is the beastly soul. And the ruach is the spirit that connects the beastly soul with the neshama, which is the highest, the holy soul. And now, let's see something very interesting. In last parsha was written that God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you need a leader. Yoshua bin Nun is going to be the leader. Ish asher ruach, a man that's got the spirit in him. And now we understand a little more. The spirit meaning is the connection between the beastly soul and the holy soul. Now, if you haven't got this connection, you haven't got the spirit, what happens? You behave like a beast. But you need the right connection. And this is al pi Hashem. The journey, the spirit that God gave you, you have to lead the spirit with the control of the neshama, and then connect it to the beastly soul, to the nefesh, habe'emit, in order to do the right things. Otherwise, if the connection is not there, and if the connection is wrong, is crooked, you're not going to go to the right place where you're supposed to. One of the interesting points in the Parsha of Mas'eh is V'ikretem lachem arim arei miklat. Arei miklat is a city when somebody by mistake kills somebody, he's got a city where he can run away and nobody is going to kill him. He's going to be safe there. There is not going to be, because in the halacha, this is what we say, goel dam. Goel dam is somebody who is related to the guy who was murdered, and he has the right to kill the guy who killed his relative. So if this guy who murdered did it by mistake, shogeg, he's got the opportunity, it's not only opportunity, he has to go to Ir Miklat, to a sanctuary where he's going to be saved. And he has to stay there till the high priest dies. So from one side, it is like for him, it's being saved. On the other side, it's a kind of punishment. So we have to understand what is it all about. And this is connected to our Parsha. In our Parsha is something very interesting. We have, 1 minute, let me find it. We have Bnei Gad ובני ראובן, ומקנה רב היה לבני ראובן, I don't find it here. So they had a lot of cattle, and they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and tell him, we want to stay here in the other side of the Jordan. And there is a whole discussion, but while the discussion is, we haven't got time to talk about everything, they say something very interesting. He says, we're going to build a place for our cattle, and then we'll build home for our wives and children. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, sorry, what did you say? You put the cattle, your property, before the life of the children and the women? Are you crazy? Is this the right way? Is this the right proportion? Putting money before life? And this is what we say in Shema Yisrael. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך, בכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. בכל לבבך, the explanation with all your heart, with the two sides of your heart, יצר הרע and יצר הטוב, the good inclination and the bad inclination. And then, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך, even if somebody takes your soul, you're still going to love God and you make God your God. And then is written, מאודיך. What is מאודיך? One of the explanation is, מאודיך is also with your money. What does it mean? What, money is more important than life? If you already said that you prepare to worship God, to love God, even if they're going to take your life, so what does it mean, money? But some people, said the Gemara, the money is more important than their body. And here we see the sample in our Parsha. The Menashe and Reuven, the tribes, they say to Moshe Rabbeinu, we want to build, first of all, fence for our cattle, and then home for our children and women. You put the money before life, and then Moshe Rabbeinu is telling him, what did you do? Are you crazy? You put life before property, before money, and not the other way around. And then they understand that, well, yeah, you're right, 100%, that's what we're going to do. We're first of all going to build home for our children and women, and then we're going to put fences for our cattle. That's the right way of doing it. So you think everything is okay. Next Parsha, in our Parsha is written that in the other time of the Jordan, they put, and this we're talking about 2.5 tribes living there, 3 sanctuary cities. And for all Am Israel that living in Israel, that on our side, also 3. So the Gemara said, well, how come? How come that for Am Israel you put 3, and for 2.5 tribes you also put 3? What is the proportion? What is the logic? So the Gemara says, Begilad nefishi rotzchim. The other side of the Jordan, Ever HaYarden, there are a lot of murderers. 1 minute. What do you mean? People going around the streets and kill people? No, of course not. How do we say? The zilzul in the life, zilzul b'chayei adam. The zilzul b'chayei adam. This is something that we really have to understand. Zilzul b'chayei adam. And when we're talking, if you are, how do you say, haven't got the right way of looking at the holiness of life. And 1 minute. And you disappreciate, I don't know how to say this. 1 minute. Let's see. You disparage. Okay, I hope I said it right. Life, that's what happens. This is why today we have a lot of accidents, unfortunately, because people don't care enough. And if you don't care enough, it will end in a very bad way. And we see what's happening on the roads. Also in buildings, you know, I heard people are falling down from buildings and like workers, and so many accidents. This is so that we don't appreciate life enough. מזלזלים בחיים. And this is what happened, why they needed years later, they needed 3 cities, sanctuary cities in the other side of the Jordan, because they were not, let's say, they didn't care enough for life. For them still, this feeling of money, of property that is more important than life was some way inside them, and it dissolved in their way of life, that they were not caring enough. And that's why there were a lot of killing by accident. And killing by accident is not exactly, is something that you can avoid if you are careful enough. That's why the sanctuary, the city that you have to run to, if chas v'sholom, you killed somebody by accident, because at one side you didn't have an intention to kill, so you shouldn't be killed. But from the other side, you didn't care enough. You were not careful enough, and this is why you have to be punished. So you're going to leave your family. Maybe you can take the family, but you leave the friends, you leave the town, you leave the place where you were used to, and you go to a sanctuary. And this is to tell us the same, how important so, of course. And this is why we say in Shema Israel, there are some people that have their priority wrong. The right priority, of course, is life is above everything, but also life in a proper way, to connect the soul, the beastly soul and the high soul, the holy soul, in the right way, to do the things that we do in our journey here in this world, that we came out from up there, to do the journey in the right spirit, in the right way, to connect our deeds with the spirit, with the neshama, and do the right in the eyes of God. This is how we can do the right thing and get to Binyan Beit HaMikdash b'meira b'yameinu. Amen. All the best.
Amen.